potential presidents winning Washington Capitals. We talked about them last week. We're going to talk about them again this week. They re-signed Jakob Chychrun to an 8-year deal at $9 million AAV. I believe that's 8 years, $72 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's a lot of schedule for a really, really good player. Like that takes a big
Yeah,
UFA name off the board. Uh Man, Jake Chychrun
yeah.
has found new life in the capital of the U. I was gonna say our nation's capital. It's definitely not our nation. I hear that so often,
No, no.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
definitely not our nation in the
So,
capital of the states.
yeah, I feel like I saw a lot of negative reaction at first to this deal. Did you feel the same, or do you fall into that
No,
camp where
not
you're
at all.
more okay? Okay,
Not at all.
I just wanted to get that out of the way because for a guy who's 26 years old, so you're locking him up, or he was heading into free agency at quite literally the youngest age that you can.
Yeah,
So you're buying the prime of his career and the least amount of the supposed the
the
downtrend that'll
downside
come
years.
in his
Yeah,
30s, right? So that's the first thing there. And then to me, 9 million, and I think I'm not saying anything that people don't know here, but we're gonna look at 9 million as what Morgan Riley signed for 7.5 million,
in like a
right?
couple of
Two,
years.
3 years ago. Right? Yeah. And I think Morgan signed that contract at 27 or 28. So I don't think the 9 million really stands off the page for me just because of where the cap is going. And then I've got some stats here, and I didn't have to look far to get these stats. These are just straight up from the press release that the Caps put out here. And I think they're really, really pertinent stats to kind of drive home the point that this is at the very least, a fair deal. And I would make an argument a deal that I like. Chychrun, 26 years old, has recorded a career high, and this is at the time of the deal, so this might have changed, has recorded a career high of 43 points in 65 games with Washington this season. Ranks first among defensemen in game-winning goals, which is not crazy stuff. He's got 6 of them, okay? He is third in goals among all defensemen, and he's sixth in even strength goal differential. This is the second straight season, and third time in his career he's eclipsed 40 points. 1 goal shy of establishing a new single season career high. He had 18 goals in 2020. The Caps have a 17-0-1 record when Chychrun scores this year.
That's
Can you imagine if the
ridiculous.
Leafs
That
had
is
Could you
ridiculous.
imagine, like, if Toronto or just whoever you cheer for, if your team acquired a defenseman and they scored 18 goals, which is already like you're over the roof about it, but and then you look at the record, 17-0-1 when Chychrun scores, it's like you're almost like your hands almost forced that you have to bring that guy back.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
this
yeah,
is an a win-win of all sorts because Jake Chychrun is playing the most contract year of contract year hockey. Like there can be. Like those numbers right there scream this guy is playing for long-term security. And I don't think he's gonna, like, even if he regresses slightly, let's say in the near future, is he not like a 0.75 point per game defenseman who plays pretty well defensively? Like,
yeah.
like
Like
how can you?
he's fine. He's fine on defense. It's like you're kind of projecting it like Morgan Riley, and I think
Yeah,
even then you're still saying you take the bet on Chychrun because of the frame that he has, where you're almost like, even if this guy isn't great defensively, like he's at least a huge body where he should be able to clear a guy out in front of the net. He can at
mm-hmm.
least impose some of his weight in the corners. I think with Morgan, even more of our complaints are like the positional stuff, whatever, right? So I think there's that first of all. I also think if you're projecting in the future, who's maybe going to be retiring in the next 3-4 years is a guy like John Carlson.
Yeah,
So then you're going to have even more of that space open up for Chychrun to take on that role. Or yeah, he can just step nicely into. I like it as a good succession plan for the Capitals. So
yeah,
that's part of this as well.
and you're locking him up to to at least just in terms of AAV. If he's out on the open market, our teams are not calling for 10, 10-5 for
I
him.
think I I think it could maybe end up at 10. That so that is interesting. I think part of the reason he did sign here is because he said, you know what, that's a number that I probably is close to what I would have gotten on the open market. That is
Yeah.
probably how this went down. But there was a fit here where the Caps didn't have to wait all of that time out to see if they could get him like at a lower number or like tell him go see what your market looks like. I think it was smart on both sides to take the deal. I'm just pulling up his career stats here, and I specifically want to look at last year because we forget the way this guy arrived to Washington is in an absolute steal of a deal. I think even people were saying it at the time of the trade. It was Nick Jensen and a third to Ottawa for Jakob Chychrun. That's it. That's the entire deal. Nick Jensen is good. Nick Jensen is a five defenseman, maybe a four defenseman at his best. And I think the
Mm.
Senators have enjoyed the Nick Jensen experience, whatever that is. He's not Jakob Chychrun. He's
Yeah.
not. He's not.
Yes.
And the bet there for the Caps is that they could re-sign him. They made good on that bet. And for the Senators, it was that they must have thought it wasn't happening, which is really interesting for a guy who's local to there. We remember his first game where he literally came to tears because how awesome it felt for him to be playing for a local team. It's crazy how that didn't work out in Ottawa, and maybe for the better of both franchises. But even last year, he put up 41 points in 82 games. The way people were talking about him, it
Was
made
that
it
he was
seem
a
like
bum?
he was. Yeah, and I think another point too, last kind of criticism of him was that he couldn't stay healthy, and now he's even changing that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
82 games last year, 67 games this year. He's on pace for 70 plus games. So I think if you've got a available Jakob Chychrun, he's absolutely shown that he is at the very least, I think, number two defenseman quality. So I
100%.
really like the deal.